I have a special episode for you today. You may or may not know, but this week is Podcast-thon, and over 1,000 podcasts from all over the world are highlighting a charity of their choice. And today, I'm excited to introduce you to All Bodies on Bikes. Welcome to Binge Eating Breakthrough, the podcast to help you stop feeling out of control around food and build trust with your body. If you've tried everything but still feel stuck, you're not alone. I've been there too. I'm Jane Pilger, and I'm here to help you see binge eating in a new way so you can finally break free. Each week, you'll get the tools and insights to create peace with food and your body. Your breakthrough starts now. Hello, everyone. I have a special episode for you today. You may or may not have heard, but there is this thing happening this week all over the world. It is called Podcast-thon. And this is all over the world, over 1,600 podcasts in 45 different countries are all highlighting charitable organizations on their podcast episodes this week. So I am very excited to be participating in Podcast-thon. And when I first became familiar with it, I thought, gosh, I wonder who do I want to highlight on this episode? I know I want to participate, but who do I want to choose as a charitable organization? Well, I literally within a week or two of signing up for Podcast-thon, I thought, I'm sure I know it will come to me. It'll be great. I got introduced to All Bodies on Bikes. And as soon as I heard about this organization, I just knew this was the episode that I wanted to bring to you and to this podcast during this incredible week to highlight this organization. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know I love riding my bicycle. I also love connecting with your body. I love the commitment to bodies of any size, being able to do anything. And this is just a perfect, it's just a perfect blend. So without further ado, I have here for the podcast today, Marley Blonsky, and Marley is the executive director of All Bodies on Bikes. So Marley, thank you for being here. And I just want to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about this incredible organization.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Jane. And thanks for just the opportunity. I think charities and nonprofits are in the spotlight right now with all sorts of things going on, but it's nice to have some positive attention coming our way that's not necessarily about funding or executive orders. So happy to be here. So like Jane said, my name is Marley, and I am the co-founder and executive director of All Bodies on Bikes. We're a nonprofit that is working to make the cycling industry more inclusive to people of all shapes and sizes and fitness levels. And we do that a bunch of different ways, which I'm sure we'll get into, but we kind of have a three-pronged approach: education, advocacy, and community building. And that community building is my favorite part and what most folks know us for leading inclusive group rides where nobody gets left behind. You're welcome on any type of bike. And we just make sure that everybody is included and welcome in our community.
Awesome. So amazing. Tell me a little bit about the origin story. How did All Bodies on Bikes come to be?
Yeah, it's a really fun story, actually. So I've been into bikes for about 10 years now as an adult. I grew up as a kid riding bikes and then lost them, as most people do, or stopped riding. And then I got back into them in my 20s. And I've always lived in a bigger body. I use the term fat to describe myself as a fat woman. It's just a neutral description of my body. And as I got more serious about cycling, I started running into barriers, finding clothing that fit, raincoats, cycling padded shorts for cycling. I even started having some trouble with my equipment. So breaking spokes on my wheels, finding a bike seat that fit. And I realized this shouldn't necessarily be the case. I'm not that big of a human, but yet I'm facing these barriers. And so along the way, I ran into my co-founder. Her name is Kaylee, and she was riding her bike across Alaska. And I found one of her Instagram posts, like you do in today's digital era. But she had made a post about riding across Alaska without a raincoat. And it's not because she was like couldn't afford a raincoat. It was a sponsored trip. She had been selected for this trip, and the company that was sponsoring the trip didn't make a raincoat in her size. And so, yeah, I slid into her DMs and was basically like, "Hey, how would you feel about working on this project together?" And at this point, we didn't really know what the project was, except that we wanted cycling clothing that fit us. And we wanted to ride with a community that would actually ride with us and not leave us behind. So her and I started working together. We put together a workshop that we called Fat Bikers. And we hosted this workshop one time at a retreat, and it was incredibly successful. Lots of folks from the bike industry were there, and they, were like, this information is really useful. Like, we would love to see more of this. Tell us more. How can we better serve people in bigger bodies? How can we all be better about this? And that's when we kind of realized we were onto something. This was like 2019-ish. 2020, we had applied to go to another conference to give this presentation, and that's when COVID hit. And so we ended up doing this presentation instead of to like 20 people in a room in person, we did it online, and like a couple hundred people joined in. And somehow, somewhere, somebody from Shimano heard our story and decided, this is really compelling. Let's make a documentary about it. So in 2020, Shimano filmed a documentary about Kaylee and I. We went on a bike camping trip together and just kind of telling our story about what it's like to be a bigger bodied person riding bikes, the challenges, the struggles, the joy. And when that film came out, the response was overwhelming of, you guys have really hit on something. Like, when are you going to come to my town and lead an inclusive ride? Can we do this here? Can we do this there? And I kind of had this vision. I was bored at my corporate job. I was, working from home during COVID, and I kind of saw all these possibilities. I was like, I think this could be a nonprofit. And so that's when the wheels started turning. And here we are 5 years later. We're a full-on nonprofit. We've got 14 chapters, and this is my full-time job.
So incredible. The documentary that Marley is talking about is incredible. I have seen it. I will be sure to link it in the show notes so that anybody can just click really easily to watch it.
Yep. It's on YouTube. We say documentary. It's more like a short film. It's like 10 minutes long, but it's really well done. It's super cute. I'd say family friendly. If you've got teenagers, there is one curse word. So depending on how mature kids are, but there's no like explicit content in it whatsoever.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about some of the things in the last 5 years that All Bodies on Bikes has been able to accomplish.
Yeah, that's lots and lots of group rides. That's been probably the most fun, visible part of our job, or my job. So these chapters that I mentioned, we have them all over the country, and they basically host inclusive group rides. And I should have the numbers right in front of me. I don't. Excuse me. But in 2023, I think we did over 30 rides. 2024, we did over 70 rides. We're talking thousands of people joining in on these group rides. Obviously not thousands all at once, but, groups of 20, groups of 50, groups of 100 in some cases. So just getting lots of people out on bikes. We've also done a lot of advocacy. So there's trade groups within the bicycle industry, just like there are any industry. And we have been able to get the ear of the industry, which is incredible. So we gave presentations at like the National Bicycle Dealers Association at their annual conference. And we're working with them on a certification program now. We've put out a bunch of resource guides for people. Those are on our website so they can look at. We've taught a ton of classes. Our signature class is called Biking for Big People. And we've taught that online a whole bunch. For a lot of folks in bigger bodies, biking is an incredible sport, activity, fun thing to do, but there are some very real barriers. Figuring out, we already talked about clothing, but figuring out a bike that's going to work, because bikes have weight limits. So we've kind of blown the doors wide open on this topic that wasn't talked about at all. And now it's become a regular topic of conversation in the bike industry, at bike events. You see people of all sizes at the start line, which you didn't. And we've really just kind of increased representation for this group that was already doing it. Like, there have always been fat people riding bikes. Bikes are incredible for bigger bodies because, you don't have the impact on your joints. It's super fun. It's a level playing field. Yeah, I think those are some of our major accomplishments. But aside from getting the 501c3 status, we operated for a couple years as just like an organization while we got all of our ducks in a row. And I don't want to diminish that. Like going through all of the paperwork to become an actual nonprofit is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me, where does the majority of your funding come from?
That's a great question. So right now it's coming from grants. So we got a big grant, thankfully, from the Walton Family Foundation. I don't think I mentioned this, but I live in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is the hometown of Walmart. But thankfully, the Walton family loves bicycles. So if you're a bike fan and you haven't been to Bentonville, I recommend that you come. But one really cool thing about that is they've really invested in the community. So we got a large grant from them that has allowed me to pay my salary. And then we just do a lot of community fundraisers. We've also gotten support from the bike industry. So Shimano has given us a grant. People for Bikes gave us a grant. REI gave us a grant. So lots of grant funding, but our budget is still like under $100,000 a year. So we're not big time yet.
Yeah, amazing. What are some of the things that you do with your funding? Like, tell us a little bit more about the work you're doing in the world.
Yeah. So aside from, administrative costs, and we really try and keep those low, it's honestly, it's my salary, is kind of the big bulk of it. But for programming funds, we are, gosh, a great example. We're taking a team of 15 people to a big gravel event next week in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And so we put out an application. We had 85 people apply for this team. We selected 15 of them. And basically we'll be paying for their housing in Stillwater. So it's folks that, wouldn't necessarily see themselves at a start line of an event. And we do mentorship and training and nutrition and all the things that you need to know to ride 50 or 100 miles. And then we're all going to gather together in Stillwater, not Oklahoma City. We're all going to gather there. And so funding goes to pay for the Airbnb, to pay for the food for the weekend, things like that. Other than that, all of our rides are free. We recognize that funding and equipment is a barrier for folks in cycling. So we try and keep that as low barrier as possible. We've also bought first aid kits for our chapter leaders, things like insurance. I didn't even think about that when I started this org of like, oh yeah, now we have liability. If somebody falls and hurts themselves on a ride, we need to be prepared for that. So those sorts of things. We've got it detailed out in our 990, which if folks want to get into that, happy to dive in, but we're very transparent, and try and be good stewards of the money that people donate to us.
That's amazing. I will also include a link in the show notes if anybody's listening and is like, "Oh, I would love to donate." We'll make sure there's a link, so you can check out the organization. You can check out if you want to get involved. Let's say I have several questions in my mind, but let me ask this one.
Yeah.
If somebody's listening and they're like, "Okay, you said there's 14 chapters. I'm really curious if there's a chapter in my area." One, how can they find out if there is a chapter in their area? And two, if there's not a chapter in their area and somebody's listening who loves bikes and thinks like, "Oh, I wish there was one in my area." Is there what would they do next?
Yeah, I love this question. So all of our chapters are listed online, allbodiesonbikes.com, and there's a tab that says Get Involved, and then you'll just see the local chapters link. And they've all got emails on there, so you can just shoot them an email. All of our chapters are also on Instagram. We recognize that a lot of folks are moving away from social media, so we're trying to do more recruitment and or information sharing via email. So send us an email for sure. And then it's really cool. We actually have it in our strategic plan to grow by 5 more chapters this year. So we need people, just like you were talking about, who love bikes, who are interested in building inclusive communities, to reach out and let us know. So you would just send me an email, Marley at allbodiesonbikes.com, or go to our website. There's links everywhere to send an email and just let us know you're interested. The way that it works is we would have you, recruit a couple friends. We've learned through experience that having just one chapter leader is really, really challenging. So we try and get teams of 3 or 4 people together in a geographic region. And then we have like a whole training program. We do a virtual training. Hopefully we might get funding to do an in-person training, because we really want the experience of an all bodies on bikes ride, whether you're going to a ride in Albuquerque or New York City or Marquette, Michigan. We want it to be consistent. We want you to have a safe experience. We want you to feel included. We want you to feel supported. And so we make sure that we train all the chapter leaders to execute those things. So yeah, if somebody's hearing this and piquing their interest and thinking, yeah, I've been looking for a way to get more involved, we would love to have you. We don't specify the kinds of rides that you have to do. So, greenway rides are great, gravel rides, adventure rides. Kind of funny, with our insurance policy, we can only host 26 mountain bike rides per year. So we do tend to shy away a little bit from the mountain biking side. But that doesn't mean we don't do it, or we sometimes will partner with other organizations who are more on the mountain biking side, just because there is so much more risk involved with mountain biking.
Got it. That makes sense. So let's say, so we've definitely covered the person who's like, ooh, I could be interested in, maybe even getting involved on a bigger level with all bodies on bikes. Let's back up to a person who's like, I used to love riding a bike as a kid, and I haven't been on a bike in years and years. And I haven't even considered that I could get on a bike because I am in a bigger body.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that person who's like, I would love to ride a bike, but maybe they've thought it wasn't possible for them. Maybe they've held themselves back for whatever reason, but they know they did used to love riding bikes. What would you have to say to that?
Yeah, I would say reach out if you're comfortable reaching out. We would love to help you find a bike that'll work for you. I mentioned earlier, bikes have weight limits, but there's a lot of brands out there that support up to 400, 450 pounds. So that fits a lot of bodies. There are even higher weight limits out there. Those bikes can be a little bit harder to source, but we'd love to help with that. And then we can connect you to folks, even if it's not somebody, if we don't have a chapter there, we likely know somebody that we would love to connect you with to get out on a bike. And we're going to encourage you to do it. You don't need fancy clothes. You don't need anything special. We, of course, recommend wearing a helmet. But if you're lucky enough to live in a city that has bike share, go hop on one of those bikes. Those are great for people of all sizes and shapes and abilities. And just, yeah, it really is like riding a bicycle. It comes right back to you. The other thing that I'd encourage folks is go test ride bikes. Go to your local shop and try an e-bike. If you've never been on an e-bike, they are so much fun and so incredible. There's also trikes. So tricycles with 3 wheels. If you've got balance issues or a standard 2-wheel bike isn't in your wheelhouse, trikes are absolutely incredible. And those are becoming even more common nowadays too, especially e-trikes. Like they've got electric trikes. They're so much fun.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen an electric trike.
They're cool. We have a woman who joins us on our Bentonville rides, and she's got some developmental disabilities, and she joins us on her e-trike and has an amazing time.
Oh, that's so great. That's so amazing. Tell me, I would love to hear, what is one of your just favorite stories that involves all bodies on bikes?
Oh gosh, I've got a lot. I think there's a specific woman I'm thinking of. I'm not going to name her, but she has been a follower of mine on Instagram for, I guess something I didn't mention is I'm also weirdly popular on Instagram. I'm kind of an influencer. I have like 41,000 fans or followers, whatever. And so there's a lot of folks who have followed my own journey, into all bodies on bikes, becoming part of the bike industry, et cetera. And there's one woman in particular, she lives in Missouri, and she's been a fan for a long time and often sends encouraging messages. One time she told me that this was years ago that I encouraged her to get on a bicycle. Seeing me in the film, I was wearing a dress in the film. It inspired her to get back on a bicycle for the first time. And since then, she has actually increased her riding. She now leads a weekly ride in her tiny little small town. And a couple months ago, I was giving away a bicycle. I am blessed. I'm a sponsored rider, so I get bikes for free from Cannondale, which is incredible, but it also means I have a lot of extra bikes. And I had one that I was trying to rehome to somebody. It was a super awesome steel bike, really high weight limit. It's actually the bike that I rode in the film. And I was looking for another bigger bodied woman who would enjoy this bike. And this person reached out to me and said, hey, you don't know me, but I know you. And I was like, actually, I do know who you are because you write to me all the time. And she had a woman in her community who, very low income, single mom, but came on the bike ride, their community ride every week with her son. And I was like, done. She gets the bike. And so we met up. I drove up to Kansas City to see my family. We actually met up on the side of the road at like a random gas station. And I was able to give her this bike. And so it's really cool to see this one person's journey from being inspired to get on a bicycle to now inspiring others. And it's just become a very full circle thing. It feels very validating.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me about being a sponsored rider. I think, so many people, when they think about sponsored riders, they kind of picture in their mind a different type of body or a different type of person who is a sponsored rider. So tell me a little bit more about your experience.
It's wild. I experience extreme imposter syndrome all the time because you're right. I don't look like a professional athlete. I'm 5'1", I'm heavier, I'm curvy. When I put on the spandex, it doesn't look like a professional bike racer. The coolest thing is these brands are not working with me because of my performance on the bicycle. They're not expecting me to win races. They love the community advocacy and the community building that I'm doing and the representation. So it's really cool. I'm getting paid to ride bikes and to be myself, which who would have thought that would even be a possibility? So it's really cool. I get to ride incredible equipment. I get to show up to events and sign autographs, which is also very strange. Get to be in photo shoots, get to travel around the world doing these things. And it's a very surreal thing.
Yeah. So incredible. So incredible. What else? What else would you love for people to know, either about All Bodies on Bikes, about your own? There are any aspects of your own story that you want to share?
Yeah. One thing that we talk about a lot with All Bodies on Bikes is joyful movement. Oftentimes in like the health and fitness world, anytime you bring up the concept of exercise, it's like, oh, you're exercising because you're fat and you want to lose weight. And that's not necessarily true for all people. For some folks that might be true, and they are using bicycling as a way to improve their personal health, their fitness or whatever. But for us, we just want to empower joyful movement. So making sure that everybody has a bike that works for them, has a community, has the resources and the skills. And it can be a delicate conversation. Sometimes you'll be in interviews and they're like, so talk to us about, weight loss. And it's like, no, we're not talking about that. Let's talk about joy instead.
Yes. Yes. So good. So what would you say are the key components of joyful movement?
If it makes you happy. I think that's like the basics of it, finding something that when you move your body, it makes you happy. Humans, we were meant to move. We were designed not to be sedentary, like our modern lifestyle has become. And so, whether that's dancing or gardening or playing with your kids or walking or skipping or swimming, our bodies were meant to be in motion. And especially, and I've gone through this, I've gone through injuries where it's taken me out for a couple weeks. Sometimes getting back into the habit and actually getting your body moving can be really hard. But that old adage of like a body in motion stays in motion is true. So you just got to start somewhere and find what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Who cares what it looks like?
Right. I also really like thinking about when you were younger, before there was all of this concern about what will other people think or comparison to other people, what did you love doing? What were the ways in which you moved your body? Because most kids naturally move their bodies all the time and they naturally gravitate towards whatever it is for them. But so kind of thinking back, if you are a person who kind of find yourself to be a little bit more sedentary right now, think back to when you were younger. What was joyful movement then that can give you clues in terms of just places to start now to see if there's still joy there. What's interesting for me to think about with bikes, I did not learn how to ride a bike until I was 12 years old.
Wow.
I had fear. I had a lot of fear. So I tried, like starting when I was 5, I tried and I had so much fear. And my parents were trying to teach me, which, probably wasn't, that probably wasn't great either. But I would do it. And so when I was 12, my friend actually, and I was even before 12, I was on a swim team. And my friend would ride her bike and I would literally walk. She would ride her bike and I would walk to the pool because I was just like, nope, can't get on a bike. And finally, when I was like 12, one of my friends was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to teach you how to ride a bike. And he taught me how to ride a bike. And then once I realized I could actually do it, I loved it. And I have so many memories of riding around the neighborhood and all of the things. And it still is just 100% my happy place.
Yeah. I love that story because it's never too late to learn. I get people asking me sometimes if I can teach them how to ride, and I don't know that I would be the best teacher, but I'm willing to try. Biking, it's so fun. And now, at least for me, there's so many different ways to do it. I can ride my cargo bike with my dog in front and just have a great day. I can go out on my mountain bike and get my adrenaline pumping. I can go out on my road bike and get a good workout in. Riding a bike means a million different things. Oftentimes it's like, oh, I'm going grocery shopping. And that brings me joy because I don't have to get in a car. I don't have to deal with parking. I just ride my bike to the grocery store.
That's amazing. What is your most favorite memory on a bike?
This one's easy. Actually, no, it's not. I could name off like 20 favorite memories, but the one that immediately comes to mind, for my 31st birthday, I was living in Washington at the time, and there was this bike packing route that I wanted to do. So bike packing is where you load your bike up with all the gear that you need to camp outside. And I put out an open invite to like 30 girlfriends. I said, meet me here. Here's the route. We're doing 60 miles, 30 miles each day. We're going to camp at the halfway point. And 25 people showed up. So we did this epic ride. It was in the Deschutes area of Oregon. If you're familiar with it, just absolutely stunning. The flowers were blooming and it was empowering. It was silly. And there's something special about riding with all women that can't really be replicated. And I had a friend surprise me with cupcakes. She rode all day long with cupcakes and then surprised me at camp. And they were in surprisingly good shape after having gone through like 30 miles of rough roads. It was really funny.
Very surprising. Oh, that's amazing. One of my favorite bike memories is my girlfriend. This was back, I was just as an adult, just getting into riding my bike. I had done one sprint triathlon. And my girlfriend she was traveling and she saw a flyer in an airport somewhere. And it was the Heartland AIDS ride. And it was from Minneapolis to Chicago, 550 miles over 6 days. And she sends me this thing. She says, we should do this. And I was like, okay. And neither one of us had ridden more than maybe 15 miles, maybe 20 at any given time. And so before we went, one time, like for our preparation, one time we went out and we rode 30 miles. And we were going to ride 550 miles over 6 days. That's a lot more than 30 miles. But we did it. We rode. We had just such an incredible time. And we had all kinds of weather issues. This was in July. There were definitely saddle sores and all kinds of things. But it was just such an incredible experience to do something like that with a friend, in this just place we had never been to. And it was probably one of my most memorable. I've got a lot of great bike memories, but that definitely is right up there for me.
Yeah. It's funny when you're riding, I've done a lot of bike travel, and those memories are so vivid because it's a full sensory experience. You're feeling it, whether it's a hill, you're feeling it in your body. You can smell whatever's cooking in the house that you're riding past. You're hearing things. It's so different than when you travel via car or airplane. And that's one of my happiest places, I think, is traveling by bicycle.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think some people, I didn't really realize before I started going on some of these kind of bike travel trips, they're all over the place, all over the United States, all over the world. Mm-hmm. You can go on these incredible organized trips. You go, there are different levels, different, all kinds of different things. It's a great way to both see the world, see new places, and do it on a bike.
100%. Last year, I got lucky. I was invited to Jamaica. We did a kind of an all bodies on bikes cycle Jamaica trip, which was really, really cool. I can't imagine after having ridden in Jamaica, there's kind of one main road that goes around the whole country. I can't imagine riding that on my own because it definitely was like a highway. But in this group, they had police escorts and we were super safe.
Wow.
It was incredible.
That is incredible. So where all have you ridden? Like have you ridden in other countries outside?
I have. Yeah. I've ridden in, and these have all been kind of on my own, just out of my own personal fun. Hong Kong, Singapore, Germany, the Netherlands. That was a funny way to say it. France, England. I used to have a very corporate job and I got to travel with that job. And so I would always be sure to either rent a bike or use a bike share because it really is just such a unique way to experience a place.
That's so incredible. Well, I cannot imagine a better person to represent. I mean, obviously you co-founded it. So it's just such a perfect fit though for what you're doing, the work you are doing, the advocacy, the awareness, the representation that you are bringing, and that your name is just perfect. All Bodies on Bikes. And really with that foundation of joyful movement being there and creating a space so that any person can experience joyful movement on a bike if that brings them joy. So
exactly. If they want to. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
We get people all the time who are like, I don't like bikes, or not all the time, but people will say that to me. And I'm like, that's fine. What do you like? Like, I'm not here to convert you. I'm not like a bike evangelist. I mean, I kind of am, but it doesn't hurt me personally if you decide that you don't like to ride a bike. Like, that's fine. Cool. Let's find something else to do together.
Right. But don't let the size of your body be the thing that limits you from getting.
Exactly. Yes. There are solutions and we would love to help you find those solutions.
Amazing. Amazing. So if you are listening and you are a person who has let the size of your body prevent you from getting on a bike, you have loved riding a bike in the past and you're like, no, or maybe you've thought up until maybe listening to this episode, you've thought it wasn't possible for you to get on a bike in the body that you're in. Marley is here to tell you that is not true. So please reach out to Marley and just strike up a conversation. She's not going to force you to get on a bike, but she will open up some possibilities that maybe you didn't realize were even available to you. And if you're listening and you think, oh, this sounds amazing, I would love to know if this is in my community. If it's not, I would love to get some friends and start up a chapter. Check out allbodiesonbikes.com. I will link up her website, her YouTube film, her Instagram. We'll put all the things in the show notes so that you can find and connect with Marley. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with us?
I don't think so. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing this and letting us be part of Podcastathon.
Podcastathon. Yes. Thank you so much. And just such a cool thing. So Podcastathon, if you are not familiar with it, if you want to check it out, I'll also put a link in the show notes to Podcastathon so you can check it out. There are literally over 1,600 podcasts representing, talking about, highlighting their favorite charitable organization. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of it and just so excited to bring some additional awareness to All Bodies on Bikes. So
thank you so much, Jane. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bye, Rudy.
Bye.
If you've tried diets, therapy, and willpower, but still find yourself binge eating, it's time to discover why those attempts haven't worked. Join me for my upcoming free workshop, Stop Binge Eating Without Diet, Rules, or Willpower, where you'll not only gain clarity on past setbacks, but also receive a clear path toward building trust and peace with food. Head on over to janepilger.com to sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.